Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of the X-Factor Sportz podcast. It's your host, Jay Mondane, tuning in live on YouTube and Rumble. You can check the X-Factor Sportz podcast out every week, every Wednesday. If you want to check out the audio, you can get that on all platforms that allow you to listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, the X-Factor Sportz podcast. We got a great show for you guys tonight. This is season 5, episode 9. We are flying through season 5, but I love it. Summer is over. We're getting into the fall, so you know we got to talk some football all episode long, so I'm glad y'all could tune in. But before we get into all of that, you know we always start out with the layup lines and the quick news. And with that, we got Major League Baseball. So Mr. 700 million, Shohei Ohtani, strikes again. I know last week we talked about him being the 6th player in Major League Baseball history to get into the 40-40 club, 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases. With over 20 games left in the regular season, he has the opportunity to be a part of the 50-50 club. All right. He's at 44 home runs. The other night he had 3 stolen bases, put him at 46 total for the season. So he can hit 50-50. It's a real possibility that it'll happen. Like I said, about 21, 22 games left in the regular season. The Dodgers are hitting on all cylinders. Shohei is on all cylinders. I feel like he's going to hit this 50-50. And no one in the history of Major League Baseball has ever hit 50 home runs and stolen 50 bases in the same season. So you can stamp National League MVP if he does that. He's probably already the surefire bet to get it anyway. But you'll stamp that for sure if he makes history. The last person to even come close was Ron Acuna. He had 44 home runs, I think, and 73 stolen bases. 41 home runs is what he had. 41 and 73. So a lot of times you get people that are heavy on the stolen bases, but they fall short of the home runs. So Ron Acuna is in the 40-40 club, but 50-50 has not ever happened. And mind you, Shohei Ohtani came into this league as an ace pitcher. Plays on both sides, but pitching was his forte. That's what made him his money. And this is the year where he's resting his pitching arm, and he's about to make offensive history. So just a great player. Again, Mr. 700 million for a reason. He ends the show. So congrats to that. I think he's going to get it. So I'm happy to see it and talk more about it here in the next couple of weeks. All right. Now we're going to move to college football. Florida State loses again. Florida State fans, I feel bad for you. I mean, last year, y'all were hooting and hollering about national championship and we should have been in the college football playoff. We didn't lose any games. That is all true. But you would think that this coach would have gotten his players ready and motivated for this season, and it ain't happening. They're 0-2 already. 2 bad losses. They should have won both games. They lose to Georgia Tech and Boston College. 2 conference games right off the bat. That's not looking great. The good news for them is now that there's a 12-team playoff, they actually have a shot of still making a college football playoff if they win out. But honestly, in my opinion, I think the coach has a better chance of getting fired before they have a better chance of winning out. So it's looking real bad for Florida State this year. And that's why we play the games, right? All these rankings, you got to go out and play. So they're out of the top 25 after starting out as the number 10 team in the country. You drop 2 games in a row, you easily get bounced out of the top 25 for them. So also we got the parlays we had last week on Bet That. Didn't hit our parlays. However, Akron did cover. Akron was 49.5-point dogs. They did cover. They still got blown out, but they covered the bet. Notre Dame went out and beat Texas A&M at A&M. Huge win for them. And then Georgia covered their spread, beating the brakes off of Clemson last week also. So we fell short. We were 3-2 on the Bet That segment. We're going to get more into Bet That as the NFL season gets rolling. So we'll talk more about it. All right. So that's all we got for the quick news this week. Mr. 700 million and college football starting. So let's switch to this. NFL season is starting. I told y'all this is going to be a heavy NFL episode. We got to have a special. We are one day before kickoff, so we got to talk NFL. So y'all let me know what you think about Tom Brady. He is the lead analyst for Fox when it comes to Sunday football. How do y'all think Tom Brady will be as an analyst? I think he's going to do fine. As smart as he is, he obviously studies the game. You can tell by the greatness he had on the field. The only question I have is his personality. Will his personality translate to the box? Will he be able to explain the game and kind of, for lack of a better term, dumb it down for the audience and make it sound good for television? I think he's shown his personality now that he's retired. If y'all saw the Netflix special, I think a part of that was proving that, yes, he does have a personality. He's not just this football machine. But I'm interested to see how him being the lead analyst on Fox, how will that break down into actually telling people about the game and making it make sense to the average tune-in watcher of football. Tony Romo does a really good job at breaking down the game. Obviously, Aikman does a really good job. Even Peyton and Eli, when they do their Monday Night Football thing on ESPN2, they even make the game fun by breaking it down and commentating throughout it. So I'm interested to see what Brady can do. Again, he knows football. We all know that. We know that quarterback position, they see the game a lot different than other positions on the field. They're used to being in charge. Some of them calling plays even from the huddle, from under center. So I'm interested to see how good Brady will do. You guys let me know if you think Brady will be better than Romo, if he'll be just as good as Romo. What will he do with Fox? I think the Super Bowl is on Fox this year, so he's going to be the lead analyst for the Super Bowl right out the gate, which is crazy. It'll be fun to see that. But let me know what y'all think about how good he'll be. I think he'll be a good personality for football. I think he'll explain the game well. I'm just interested to see how he does. He's got the Cowboys-Browns game week 1 this Sunday. So I'm interested to see how he calls that game. I'm just glad they got Troy Aikman and Romo off these damn Cowboys games because the bias was just spewing out of the screen. With Brady being an unbiased, he has no dog in the fight with that game. So it'd be interesting to see how he calls it. So it should be pretty good. All right. Now, because we talking NFL, we're going to do this segment here, and we're going to call this the too early award predictions, right? Before we even get into week 1, we're going to talk about who we think is going to win all these end-of-season awards, these individual awards NFL players receive, all right? So to get it started, we're going to start with the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I kind of teased y'all last week. I talked about some of these players anyway and what I think they're going to do with the bold predictions. And I got Bo Nix, quarterback from the Denver Broncos. I think he's going to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year for the same reasons I alluded to last week. He's just going to throw the ball a ton, right? I think with Sean Payton in that offense, it's going to be very similar to what it was back when he was in New Orleans when he had Drew Brees. And he's going to let him throw the ball everywhere. I think they trust Bo Nix. Again, he is an older rookie, so he can handle the playbook. There was nothing but high praises for him in the preseason. I think it's going to be a close race, but I don't think the other two quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, are going to throw the ball as much as him. And I think he's going to have to get them in, keep them in games because they're going to win a little bit more than people expect. So that's going to also be a feather in his cap for Offensive Rookie of the Year too, because he's going to surprise some people. So I'm giving Bo Nix Offensive Rookie of the Year in my prediction. The next one, obviously, if we go from offense, we go to defense. So we talk about the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I got Dallas Turner, linebacker from Minnesota, winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year. He looked like he was the most NFL-ready defensive player coming into the draft, coming out of Alabama. You know how they do with their defensive players. He reminds me a lot of Micah Parsons from Dallas. I think he's going to play linebacker mostly, but they're going to move him around and put him at the defensive line. And it's a numbers game, right? So when the offensive and defensive linemen line up, it's usually 5-on-5 unless you got a tight end with protection. I think they're going to have Dallas Turner a lot of the times being that offset defensive end so he can rush the quarterback, especially on third downs. I see a lot of Micah Parsons in his game, and Micah Parsons was a defensive rookie of the year. So it only makes sense for me to think Dallas Turner will be, and he's playing in a competitive division as well. So that'll be fun to watch. So I got Dallas Turner as my defensive rookie of the year. Now, over to offensive player of the year. NFL started doing this a few years back because a lot of people were complaining that the rookie or the MVP was just a quarterback award. So now we have an offensive and defensive player of the year award. And for this year, I'm actually picking a quarterback to be the offensive player of the year. I'm going with C.J. Stroud out of Houston. I think the weapons they added with Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, I think he's going to throw the ball all over the place. They love what they got out of him last year as a rookie. I think they're going to give him more of the playbook. I think they're going to trust him a lot more. They've added more weapons. And I've said this before. Teams tell you how they feel about players based on their actions. They clearly like what C.J. Stroud did last year, so much so that they went and got Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, right? More weapons to go with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. So I think they trust him fully. I think DeMeco Ryans as a defensive coach allows his offensive coordinators to do their thing on that side, and I think they're going to let CJ rock. So I got him as the offensive player of the year. He's going to get MVP votes as well, but I just feel like a quarterback is not going to win MVP this year. So that's a little tease for y'all on who I think. All right, over to the defensive player of the year. I told y'all Dallas Turner, linebacker from Minnesota, is going to win the defensive rookie of the year. I think his defensive doppelganger in Micah Parsons wins the defensive player of the year. Finally, he finally gets what he's been coveting for so many years. And I think he finally gets over the hump and he becomes defensive player of the year. The reason I feel like he is going to get it, though, is kind of a bad reason. All right, if you think of the whole schematics of the team game. I don't think Dallas's offense is going to be that good this year. So they're not going to be on the field as much. I think that Micah Parsons has more opportunities to fly around, get his stats up. So his statistics are going to be a lot better than the other candidates at the defensive player of the year spot. So I think Micah Parsons gets it. They have a brand new defensive coordinator. New coordinators kind of lean into their best players in that first year when they're putting together packages for their offense or their defense. And everybody knows Micah Parsons is a dog. I feel like the defensive coordinator is going to let him run around and do his thing. So give me that. And it's just in time for him to get this new contract. So he's going to be extra motivated to get an award as an incentive to get more money next season. So give me Micah Parsons as the defensive player of the year. And for coach of the year, you think I was from Texas, the way I'm talking about these players and these coaches. But I got DeMeco Ryans from the Houston Texans winning coach of the year. I think he got robbed last year. Kevin Stefanski from the Cleveland Browns won it last year. They pretty much swept the awards. I think this year is the Houston Texans' year. I'm high on this team. I think they're going to do great things. I think they got a lot to build off of from last season. So I see them doing some big things in the AFC. That doesn't mean I have them winning a Super Bowl. But in the regular season, I wouldn't be surprised if they're a 1 or 2 seed coming out of the AFC South. They're going to dominate that division. They might win that division going away by 2, 3, 4 games. And that's why I think DeMeco Ryans will win coach of the year, just because he's going to dominate his division probably like no other team. And they're going to have a high seed in the playoffs. So I think he come back and spin the block and get what he deserved last season at that coach of the year spot. All right. For comeback player of the year, there's a lot of names that can go out there. Kurt Thuggins, of course, tore his Achilles. He's coming back. And Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. He's coming back. But I'm actually going to give the comeback player of the year to Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb from the Cleveland Browns, running back. I think he comes back strong. He's had knee injuries before and came back strong. He's on the PUP list right now. I think that he comes back in about 4 weeks and still rushes for over 1,000 yards this season. He's just a big part of what that Browns offense does. Takes a huge load off of Deshaun Watson's back. Having Nick Chubb, he's a red zone guy. He hunts the goal line. I see Nick Chubb having a big year. Even with missing 4 games, he'll come back fresh, rush for over 1,000, and that's what'll get him the comeback player of the year. I think Kirk Cousins can have a good year, and I think Aaron Rodgers has the potential to have a good year, even though I think he's going to fall off this cliff. He still has the potential to do it. However, I think Cleveland will have a better record than both of those teams, and I think Nick Chubb will play a big part in why the Cleveland Browns will have a better record. That's why I'm giving him the nod for comeback player of the year. All right. And for our MVP, I told y'all, I kind of gave y'all a little tease on who I had being the MVP is a non-quarterback. I think Christian McCaffrey finally breaks through after a 10-year drought of somebody other than a quarterback winning an MVP. I think Christian McCaffrey wins it this year. All right. The reason I say it is because I think Christian McCaffrey is going to break some records this year. Piling on to all the touchdowns he had last season, I think he comes back and continues rolling. They got their team intact. Trent Williams finally signed his deal. Brandon Ayuk got signed. I think everything's going to be good for the San Francisco 49ers. Nobody misses games. They're ready for week 1. And I think Christian McCaffrey hits the ground running. Obviously, all of these nominations and all these predictions are barring injury. If everybody's healthy, all things equal, I think Christian McCaffrey wins MVP. Jalen Hurts will get some votes. I think he's going to have a great year. But I just feel like what CJ Stroud's going to do in Houston, and especially in the AFC, the stronger conference, he'll get the nod for Offensive Player of the Year, and then Christian McCaffrey will just do more on the NFC side to win the MVP. Obviously, Mahomes will get votes every year because he's Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs will always be good. He'll be on TV all the time. There's always a narrative. The media is the ones that vote majority of the time. So when you got an athlete that is on TV the most, obviously media gravitates towards that player. So Mahomes is always in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year or MVP. Tyreek Hill is in there as well. But my vote's going to McCaffrey. So that's what we got for our 2 early predictions for awards. A lot of quarterbacks. We got running backs winning MVP. We got defensive coaches winning Coach of the Year. We got running backs coming back off knee surgery, all different types of things. Y'all let me know how y'all like that list. If you think it's accurate, some of it is. It's all trash. Whatever y'all think, let me know. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the X Factor Sports Podcast on YouTube and Rumble. And then also any of the audio platforms, you can catch us every Wednesday night. All right. Now, staying with the NFL, we got some games to play. So, of course, we got the predictions out the way, but now we actually got to play some games. And we got this segment back that y'all love during the football season, the X Factors for this week in the NFL week 1. All right. If you're new to the show, when we do our X Factors for the week, we usually pick 5 games. Usually it's primetime games, and then we do some games in the early games Sunday, the afternoon game Sunday, and then we do Sunday night, Monday night football. Since those tend to be the primetime games, we like to pick the X Factors because we know that y'all have the opportunity to watch them. All right. And then you can take this information, use it for fantasy as well. So for week 1, opening night, kickoff tomorrow, Ravens come to Kansas City. All right. My X Factor for that game is going to be Derrick Henry. All right. The Chiefs, early on in the season, they always struggle with good running backs. And they tend to get better as the season progresses. But early on, if you caught that Lions game last year in week 1, even though they didn't have one of their defensive linemen, he was trying to get paid, Chris Jones, they still struggled with the running game. And that is an Andy Reid thing. He's always kind of struggled with the running game. And when you got the new Baltimore bully in the house, I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to feature him because he's new to the team, and it's easier when you're trying to get your offense up and running is to depend on the run game. And what better player to depend on the run game than with Derrick Henry? So I got him as the X factor in that game. I see him rushing for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think when they get to the goal line, there's no question of who's getting it, and it's going to be him against whoever's trying to tackle him. And I take Derrick Henry every time. So I got him as the X factor in that game. All right. Then we move over to a noon game, the Titans at Bears. Derrick Henry's old team playing against the Bears in Chicago. I'm going to take Rome Odunze, the rookie wide receiver for the Bears, as the X factor in this game. Keenan Allen is questionable, and DJ Moore is going to be attracting double teams all night. So I got to go with the rookie Rome Odunze. He's building chemistry along with Caleb Williams. So I see him having a great opening day. I see 7 catches for about 86 yards and a touchdown for Rome Odunze. I think he has a good game, a good week 1 matchup. There's no scouting on him. There's no film on him yet. So I think this is the time where Rome Odunze can show out. He can catch deep passes. He's good with routes. He's got great footwork. So I like what the Bears did with picking him. And I think he's going to be a steal as well at that wide receiver position. And like I said, with Keenan Allen questionable, all eyes are going to be on DJ Moore so Rome Odunze can ball out. All right. Now, in the afternoon game, we got the Texans at Colts. Again, we've been giving the Texans a lot of love already in this episode, but I got CJ Stroud as the X factor in this game. I think he hits the ground running. It's against a divisional opponent. And the offense usually takes more time to get acclimated in the defense to catch up, right? But I think CJ will have a big game. Like I said, they got him some new weapons. You got Tank Dell. You got Stephon Diggs. You got Joe Mixon. You got Nico Collins. Like, he's just got a lot of people he can dime the ball off to. I think they come in ready to make a statement in this week 1 to show how serious they are for this season. I see about 290 passing yards and 3 touchdowns from CJ Stroud. I think he has a really, really good game. So I'm interested to see how that goes. All right. Then we get to Sunday Night Football. The Rams go to Detroit into the Dome. Stafford comes home. He's back in Detroit. I think he's played against Detroit already since he's been in LA, but I think it was actually in LA. So this one he comes home with Jahmyr Gibbs questionable, with Sam Laporta questionable. I'm looking for Amon-Ra St. Brown to be the X factor in this game for Detroit. I think Jared Goff trusts him the most, so he will get a lot of touches in this game. I'm not sure what the defense looks like for the Rams. This is their first game without Aaron Donald as the defensive lineman. The Lions' offensive line is really good. That's what helped them advance in the playoffs last year. I think Jared Goff gets enough time. He's got the city behind him. He's got the team behind him. Still has that old chip on his shoulder from being kind of discarded by the Rams. So I think he does a good job with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I see St. Brown getting over 10 catches and a touchdown. So a big fantasy football day for him with the 10 catches. If you're in the PPR league, look for Amon-Ra St. Brown to have a good game. All right. Then our last game, we get into Monday Night Football. The X factor for this game, the Jets go to San Francisco. They got to fly across country for a Monday night game. Their offensive line ain't that great. At least last season they wasn't. We saw what happened to Aaron Rodgers. 4 snaps in. So give me the 49ers defense as the X factors in this game. I think defense wins the day. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is ready to play right now. He hasn't played in more than 500 days. He's played 4 snaps in the last 500 and some days, right? And you're going against an elite defense who's ready to go. You got a 39, 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles injury, and his first game is on the road against Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and the 49ers defense, who's rated to be one of the top defenses in football this year. Give me that defense as the X factor in this game. I see 4 sacks probably an interception thrown. So if you got the 49ers defense in fantasy, you probably got a good game on you right now with the 49ers defense. So that's what we got for our X Factors in week 1. All right, we got Derrick Henry, Roma Dunze, CJ Stroud, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the 49ers defense. So if you got them on your fantasy, you probably will have a good week with those players. And y'all let me know what you think about that. Be sure to message. You can always shoot back on all the audio platforms. You can message on all of the social media platforms as well at X-Factor Sportz with a Z. And then you can watch on YouTube and Rumble. All right. Now, before we get out of here, we're going back to the regular format of the 2-minute warning. I want to thank y'all for tuning in, of course, to the X-Factor Sportz podcast this week, season 5, episode 9. But before we get out of here, we hit you with the 2-minute. And we're talking about training yourself not to take anything personal, okay? It's a tough thing to do because we're all people, right? So, of course, we want to take things personal, especially if it feels like it's an attack on us. But you have to train your mind not to do that, to take things personal, okay? Especially from people that don't know you, people that comment on your social media. I had some things I put on social media yesterday about LeBron, right? Just trying to get an idea of why people think he's the greatest player. You know, I wanted to have a real basketball conversation about skill set and what makes him great, things like that. I don't take any of those comments personal. Of course, a lot of people will hit them different when they hear about LeBron. They think you attacking him. He's either the greatest player of all time or you a hater. There's no in between, right? But I don't take any of that personal. So the lesson in that, you got to learn not to take things personal. Get your head down. Focus on the things that you have going on. Focus on the task at hand. Take advice from the people that you care about and that care about you and the people that are in the positions you want to be in. And you don't take any of that stuff personal, all right? And that's how you continue to move forward and get that tough skin and hit your goals. All right? I appreciate y'all for tuning in this week to the X-Factor Sportz podcast on YouTube and Rumble. If you like the gear, as always, you can check us out at the X-Factor Sportz store. We got all shirts, colors, sizes, and then you can also get the hats. Let me zoom that hat in for you. All right. You can get those in gray or in black. They are snapbacks, so they fit all heads. And you can get that at the X-Factor Sportz store too. Be sure to like, share, subscribe on YouTube and Rumble and all the audio platforms. We'll see y'all next week. The X-Factor Sportz podcast, episode 10, where we get into more NFL and we inch closer to the Major League Baseball and WNBA playoffs. This is Jay Mondane, your host, signing out. Peace.